I'm the director of the School of Information Management. While people are still arriving, I just wanted to introduce you to a couple of people. So we do have, is Janet Music here? If she just wants to come on and say hello to everyone as we're starting, great, thank you. And Janet, do you want to tell people your role?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Janet Music. I am the program coordinator for the Master of Information. So I do all of that academy stuff uh, for students in the program and program related things. So yeah, welcome everybody. Happy to see such a big turnout.
Excellent, thanks. And Kim Humes, oh, I don't know why I'm suddenly getting feedback. Okay, Kim, if you want to say hello to everybody.
Hey everyone, I'm Kim Humes. I'm the administrative assistant for SIM.
Sorry, just one moment. There we go. Excellent. And we are very fortunate to have a selection of our alumni here with us as panelists. So I'm going to introduce you to them all a little bit later in this session. So what I'd like to do is start by just giving you a little bit of overview to our degree so you can understand what it's about and the key areas that we focus on. And then I'm going to open things up to a panel discussion because as interesting as it may be to hear me talk about the degree, what's even more relevant is to hear from people who have taken our degree and how that's shaped their career. So I will get started. So the first question I wanted to address is why a Master of Information degree? And as you'll hear from some of our panelists, this degree has been called different things through time. So it was a Master of Library and Information Studies, and it was actually a Master of Library Service originally. So the point is, this degree is one that really gets at the heart of the role of information in society, in the world that we live in. And it really focuses understanding, information, data, knowledge, and the ways in which we communicate them, store them, all these different things. And what we find right now is every time you pick up a newspaper, if you still read them, or of course, most of us are seeing that virtually on various different devices, you're reading stories that are talking about the impact of artificial intelligence, that's talking about misinformation and some of the issues around that. That's talking about data and how we have to better understand and use data to make decision making. About the role of public libraries and how it's changing in terms of communities, the incredible role that information plays in making health decisions. So these are just examples of the many things and the many ways that what we teach is critical to what's going on in the world around us. So we also, of course, while we think this degree is an incredible degree, we also very much think that we have the best degree. And one of the things that's exciting about our program is we are embedded within a faculty of management. So in addition to being able to take our program, you're also able to take program from other places across the faculty to liaise with other students to learn about management and that whole field as well. And as I noted, we noticed in our cover slides, we're a fairly small program and we're, very close. You get to know all the faculty and the students in the program. You're really connected to our alumni. So we really, try and provide a robust degree that allows you to connect in many, many different ways. Of course, one of the most important things about our degree is that it is recognized by the ALA. And really, this is important for two major reasons. First of all, it means you can take this degree and work anywhere internationally, and this degree is recognized. But it also tells you that everything we do in our program is vetted by an external agency. So they do a very comprehensive job at not only looking at the program, but looking at all the supports we provide for students, the links between students and alumni, the way we can help our students get jobs. They comprehensively look at everything, including the support of the university for this program. And so, this means that someone else has looked at this program and said that it's a great program and it's, going to help you launch a career and a profession. I also wanted to spend a couple minutes just talking about Dalhousie. First of all, it's a beautiful campus and a wonderful place to be in Halifax, but it's also one of Canada's top U15 or research intensive universities. So that means you are going to have access to, world-class researchers. We have a phenomenal library system here, and you also have are become a member of our alumni. So again, a large number of people internationally working around the globe. In terms of our particular program, one of the things we do when we put together our program and we think about it is we really think about what do you need to know as you leave our program and go out into the profession. And we create these competencies through a very substantive and comprehensive process of looking at a range of different competencies out there, about talking to people across multiple different professions within our field. So we want you to be able to walk out of this program, and be able to adapt, because we know the workplace you're going to be going into is going to be constantly changing. We really focus on collaboration because, again, we hear most workplaces, people are achieving things through collaboration. Foundational to our profession and our program is a commitment to equity, diversity, inclusion, accessibility, and decolonization. And this, you will see this show up across the curriculum. So we've tried to ensure that all courses allow you to focus appropriately on equity, diversity, inclusion, accessibility, and decolonization. So it's threaded throughout the curriculum, but it also is, we have specific courses that focus on that. So to make sure that you're, once again, ready for the workplace, but that you're also thinking about the way this profession interacts with other areas and the work that we still need to do to respond to the TRC calls to action, for example. Key to our program as well is teaching you strong communication skills, oral presentation, and digital and technological literacy. Research is critical to everything we do in this profession. So evidence-based practices, so basing what our decisions are based on evidence is absolutely critical. We focus on leadership, on continuous learning, on learning how to manage, and that's manage projects, people, uh, all kinds of different things, as well as really highlighting user-centered design, which is critical and foundational to this field as well. One of the most exciting things about our program is that people really do join us from all kinds of different areas. So we have students that come with every kind of background. In many cases, students might already have a master's degree, and we've had students that have PhD degrees. So whatever your background is, we allow you to kind of build onto it and create another layer of skills and competencies and knowledge. And then many of our students go out into the workplace and do a wide range of things. So here these are actually all titles that some of our alumni hold. And as you can see, some of them, we've kind of organized them into libraries and archives versus information management, but there is just a wide range of things that we do. So we, absolutely focus on teaching you practical and useful skills and skills that will allow you to build a career that will take you through potentially many different areas. In addition, we really focus on work integrated learning throughout our program. So things like the practicum, but also in classwork, we do try and connect you with real world problems and have you do authentic assignments. We have a professional in residence who's going to help you with things like, we just had last week some career day. So, we had sessions on, everything from your CV to interview preparations and skills, to really just connecting you with the tools you need to be able to start your job search and land your first job. Another core part of our program is just the way students are so involved in everything. So they create their own associations, they run a conference, Information Without Borders. They're often leading or editing a journal of interdisciplinary management. There are lots of ways you can, as a student, get involved in different associations and in also student chapter of professional associations. And this is absolutely, invaluable because in this master's, we are very much trying to set you up for a professional career. So the more we connect you with the opportunities in professional associations in the program, the better. We also really want you to be able to customize your own program. So if you come into the program and there's things that you're really passionate about, you may want to do an independent study or a reading course. You might also want to do a thesis. We allow you to do combined degrees, and I'll talk about that in a bit more in a minute. And of course, one of the strengths of our program is our connection to our communities, to our alumni communities, and to our communities, our library communities, our records management communities, our data science, all of these different communities. The courses that we require you to take are listed here. And there seem like a lot of them because in fact there are so many different aspects of this field. And we are committed to having a very general master's program that will allow you to get a job across many different areas. So we start with something like information in society, which gives you a very broad understanding of the way our society is being transformed and changed by information and technology. Organization of information really allows you to focus on the ways we classify and work with information. As I mentioned, research methods is foundational, making sure all of you have a sense of how we do research and applied research in particular. Information sources, services, and retrieval. Make sure that you all have a foundation in absolutely critical, research and searching skills, both for yourself and thinking about how you might teach other people. And also it creates, we begin to create the whole idea of communities and how we work with different communities. Information management systems focuses on the technology side so that you know the different tools and resources that you can use to help you do your job. And data management, increasingly, I just this fall was at a session that was run by 3 leading professional organizations within our field. And I'm hearing, from multiple different places, the data and how to work with data is a critical part of the field. So we give you a course on data management. You get to take a choice of an advanced technology course that fits with your need, and you will also take organizational management and strategy, which also acts as a capstone and allows you to think across the program. In addition, your practicum ensures that all students will have a minimum of 100 hours of real work experience. As I mentioned, we've tried to ensure that everyone walking out of our program has a very general education. But we realize some of you might really have an area that you want to specialize in. So while you're doing your degree, you can also earn a certificate in librarianship, one in youth and children's services, one in archives, user-centered design, information management and policy, or data management. And as I mentioned, you can do 2 degrees at once. So you can combine our degree with a law degree, with a master's of public administration, and with a master's of resource and environmental management. So these are all options. And you can, in fact, we've had students create their own combined masters. So, whatever you're interested in, we're happy to find a way for you to mix it with our program. I also just wanted to give you a sense, because research is incredibly important to people in the field and to faculty here. So these are just some of the areas, the broad areas where we do research. And one of the things I would encourage you is, when you're thinking about the program, is to think about the opportunity to work with us as research assistants, to work on projects, and really gain that experience at the same time. We find our students are much in demand, not just from our faculty, but from faculty across the university, because we teach you such strong research skills. And again, a reminder that you can do a reading course or you can do a thesis, just other ways that you can take our degree and make it your own. Another key part of the program is our faculty. Our faculty, many of them have professional experience as well as academic experience. And we also care deeply about teaching. So many of them, our faculty have won teaching awards. And we really work together to see how our teaching can fit together, how things we teach in one class fit across, so that you're getting a really rich learning experience while you're here. And our award-winning alumni. These are pictures of people that have won one of our graduating awards, the Viannis Award. And you will notice that, from these wonderful people, I will notice rather that many of these people are still absolutely connected to our program. In fact, some of them are here in the audience today. So it shows you that, as we like to say, you never really leave our program. Before I get into the details of the application process, I just wanted to now bring in our panelists and give them a few minutes. We're going to do a interview with our panelists, and then I will open things up to everybody to ask questions, and then we can finish up with some of the nuts and bolts of the application process. But I, would now like to turn things over. Our panelists are Carlisle Hannelis, who's the manager of privacy and information management at Alexicon Energy. Allison Manley, health sciences librarian for Horizon Health Network. Michelle Helliwell, manager of the policy office at Nova Scotia Health. Mitchell Jalaby, library technician for special collections and circulations, and Pallavi Gan, and who's doing her PhD. So I would like to start, and I do have full bios for everybody that we will circulate. I had added them to the slide, but my computer wasn't cooperating with me today, so I couldn't share that version of the slides. But we will circulate them. But what I would like to do is I will start in alphabetical order. So I'll start by asking Pallavi to take a few minutes to introduce herself and just to tell us about your path into this degree, and just to introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi, my name is Pallavi Gon. I am originally from India. I joined MI in 2017 and graduated in 2019 and graduated in 2021. I had a master degree previously, but I wanted to explore more and learn about data. So MI was a perfect course for me to learn about managing and working with data. I learned a lot about data and I got great research skills which I didn't have previously. And I thought I decided to have a PhD in interdisciplinary studies, and I'm doing my second year interdisciplinary PhD in interdisciplinary studies now. And I'm also working as a part-time faculty in computer science for this semester. I'm great to be alumni for MI, and thanks for having me, Sandra.
Thanks so much. Carlisle.
Yeah, hi everybody. I am Carla. Sorry, Sandra, is this the part from the questions that you circulated, like why we all came to
Yes.
SIM? Yeah, okay,
Yes,
cool.
that'd
So
be wonderful.
yeah, so I work more in the records management side of things. I graduated in 2015 with the combined well, it was MLIS at the time, and the Masters of Resource and Environmental Management. What kind of pulled me into this field, I guess, I was always pretty bookish, and so it seemed like a natural fit. I did do an informational interview with a woman who is a chief librarian in BC to sort of explore the profession and see if that was something I was interested in, and was pretty hooked after that. Quickly learned that public libraries is not a realm that was suited for me, but it's okay. There's lots of different avenues to go into with this program and this degree. In terms of being at Dal and Sim in particular, I really love being near water. So obviously Halifax being a port city, really great for that. And I liked the option of the dual degree. At the time that I entered the school, I wasn't sure that I was going to pursue the MREM dual degree option, but I thought it was really interesting and just sort of indicated that Sim is doing cool things. Like the placement of the school within the Faculty of Management is really exciting and really modern, and prepares students to go into the real working world. So that was sort of what drew me into it.
Excellent. Thanks, Carla. And Michelle.
Okay, my name is Michelle Halliwell, and I feel like a dinosaur. I graduated from SLIS, that's how old I am, in 2003. So I entered the program in 1999 as a part-time student because I was married, and I think my now 22-year-old son was the youngest student at SLIS because I had him at the end of March and had no daycare. And so my profs so generously allowed me to bring him to class for that first semester. And that very caring environment meant the world to me at the time. It was one less burden in a burdened life, and we have lots of things on our plates. So how I almost fell into SIM. I had an undergraduate degree and was working like so many. So, I'm a Gen X kid, no longer a kid. So, I ended up in the same job that I was working to put myself through my undergrad, which was in a healthcare setting. And I knew I didn't want to do that for my whole life. And it was my mother-in-law worked in the library system at the time, and I made some inquiries, and it has been the best happy accident that ever happened to me. It was an utter natural thing. I ended up doing a thesis and a healthcare specialization, mostly because that's where it came from. And, I'm not a nurse in medieval history, but that the healthcare milieu is where I have stayed and flourished, I think. And that degree has just offered and opened so many doors. So I just want to say, if you're interested in the healthcare field of it, please feel free to reach out to me. But it has never served me. It's never done anything but serve me well. So.
Excellent. Thank you. Mitchell, so we go from our oldest alumni to our most recent alumni here, I think.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Sandra, for having me on the panel here today. As Sandra introduced, my name is Mitchell Jabley. I currently work at Cape Breton University Library, and I work with special collections and circulation. And I attended SIM from 2018 to 2020. And overall, I had a pretty wonderful experience. I think you'll get that impression from most people who've graduated from this program. But how I came to SIM was I have an arts background in history in particular. And through talking with people I knew at the university I attended to, I found out about this program. And I was like, this sounds pretty interesting. And through that exploration and asking questions, I found my way to the application process, and the rest was kind of history. So with my background in history, my primary interest became in the archival profession. And to me at the time, and even looking back at it now, the progression from history into archives seemed like a very logical progression for me. And I see it as an active way of practicing history. And through that undergraduate experiences was really what molded my interest in that. And then coming to SIM was really my way of studying that kind of a field and getting into that kind of working field. Overall, my experiences with SIM was just truly wonderful. It's got a very wonderful faculty and administration that can really help your experiences be something to remember. There's a wide variety of courses between core courses and courses that you can select yourself to really find what you're interested in and develop an interest in something you might not have thought of. And kind of like what I said, it really what I have studied really has translated into the actual working experience, because it's what I've practiced and what I'm practicing now. And I couldn't recommend the program anymore to potential undergraduates or other graduates looking to come to another program.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mitchell. Allison.
Hi, everyone. I'm Allison. As Sandra said, I am a health sciences librarian with Horizon Health Network, which is the English Language Health Authority in New Brunswick. So I came to the program right out of my undergrad. I'm actually in the same class as Carlisle, so you will, for the rest of your life, be interacting with your classmates and your cohort mates. They are your colleagues forever. So I started at SIM in 2013 and graduated in 2015. It was an MLIS then. And the way I came to the program was kind of roundabout. My undergrad is in political science, and like all good political science majors, I thought I was going to go to law school. And then I met someone, a friend of a friend, one night, and to be polite, I was asking them, like, what are you doing? What are you studying? And they were in the program at a different school, and they started talking to me about the possibilities of the MI degree, the MLIS, and where they could go with that, and what they were focusing on. And as they were talking about it, my questions switched from being polite to just being like, tell me more about this, because I think this is the thing that I want to do. So it really, like at the end of that night, it really seemed like a great fit for me after doing a bit of searching to see if, where the programs were, where the schools were. I'm a Maritimer. I'm from New Brunswick. I love living in Atlantic Canada, and the fact that there was a school in Nova Scotia nearby was such a selling point to me. It's not always easy to try and stay in Atlantic Canada, as Atlantic Canadians know, but the fact that this education is available to you in your home region is just lovely, and it was really just a huge selling point for me, and it has turned out to be a really great decision because, as Sandra said, the school is small, the alumni network is strong, and you will meet so many people who've gone to SIM, who have the degree, and you'll be working with them really for the rest of your life, even across Canada, but particularly in the Maritimes.
Yes, thanks. Thank you, everyone. I think this is what I love about this profession is that, we all have our stories. I ended up my first job out of university. I had been thinking about that law school and wrote the LSAT and did well and was ready to do the applications. And I just thought, you know what? I think I'm just doing this because that's what you're supposed to do. And I don't really think I want to be a lawyer. And then my first job ended up being in what we call a special library in the financial services industry. And but similar to what Allison just said, I think it was, just as I was graduating that I heard someone else who was going to take this program at U of T. And I thought, wow. And I think what I've personally loved about this field is that I absolutely love learning. I love doing different things. I love diving. I love researching. And so, I've been able to kind of structure my life to allow me to do these things I love as much as I want. So it's been fabulous. I just wanted to just ask if each of you could reflect on your personal experience with the program. So thinking, of people who are thinking about taking the program, like what really struck you during your time? What did you find was the most helpful and meaningful? And sometimes we don't know that when we're doing a program, but it's only afterwards that we can look back and say, oh, this was what was really great. So I will start this time with Allison. I'll let you go first this time.
Okay. So when I came to the program, I wasn't 100% sure where I wanted to go with the degree, what realm I was interested in. And the nice thing about the program is that it's generalist. There's a lot of room to figure out what you want to do. There's a lot of opportunity to figure out what you want to do. And that was my experience. I got to try out a lot of wonderful things and take classes that, like, at the time probably didn't seem um, as valuable as they ended up being in the future. For example, I took Intro to Legal Librarianship, or I forget what it's called now. Anyway, the Legal Librarianship course. And that actually ended up getting me a contract job as a law librarian with Justice Canada. So there's a lot of opportunities and things that you may not see right away. And this breadth of freedom to explore in the different classes, that was what really excited me, not being tied down to such a strict order of courses. Yes, the core courses are great and build a wonderful foundation, but you have a lot of room in your electives to try out different things and try out different areas. And it was all really exciting and turned out to be super helpful, even in my what is arguably a very hyper specialized role as a health sciences librarian.
Great, thank you. Michelle.
Okay, I think what was special about it? So I think just building on what Allison said, because when I went to library school, which is what I still call it in my head, I had no idea. Like I showed up, and I actually have an undergraduate degree and in history, and so I kind of thought that I would go down that road. I was trying to get out of the hospital, not come back. So I had no preconceived notions of what I was going to do. And interestingly, we're probably beyond this now, but if I had a nickel for everyone who tried to talk me out of it because they didn't understand why I needed a master's degree to shelve a book, I probably wouldn't be working or needed to go to library school. But it really did open doors, and I was older, so I had been working for like nearly 10 years. I was 29 when I started the program. And so I can remember that we're sitting in reference class. And I just want to say, those foundational courses, I use them every day in my work. Just going to tell you. So, like, they will serve you. They probably serve all the folks on this call. But I can remember sitting there and talking about information seeking behavior and theory. And there was just this light that went on when I saw every problem with communication of information between physicians and nurses and parents. I was working in a neonatal ICU at the time. And it was like my career was made in that moment. Like, so you just don't know where it's going to take you. And it was just exciting, right? So I think that is what it offers is you don't know. You may think when you get there, this is what you're going to do. And even when I graduated, I didn't think I was going to be managing policy. Like it just gives you so much. And then the world's your oyster. I'll stop talking now.
That's great. Thank you. Carlisle.
All right. Okay. Hi. Yeah. So I think my experience was really shaped a lot, I think, from having taken the dual degree. So I entered into the dual degree program in my second year. But even without that, actually, you do, and I don't know, Sandra, if anything has changed drastically from when I was there, but a lot of working across the whole faculty of management. So really working so closely with students in other program areas. And in my experience, in sort of the information management realm, you work within an organization. It's very much kind of like how IT provides a service to the rest of the organization. Information managers do the same thing. And so you need to be able to work cross-functionally. You need to be able to sort of soak up the little bits and pieces of what other people do in their profession, understand their vocabulary and how to work with them. And that was really something that I learned. And it was a foundation of the program at Dal. I also really love being able to take courses outside of SIM. And again, part of that was because I was doing the MRM. So I was forced to take courses within that specific faculty, within that particular school. But I also took like GIS courses, which I really enjoyed. And while I don't use it in my work now, it was, something I look back on, and I had a really fun time doing that. I think the emphasis overall on management is really a strength of SIM as well, because and I'm sure a lot of the other people on this panel will agree, well, not every single career path from this program will lead you into a management-y kind of role. A lot of them do, whether you're managing a program or you're also managing people. And so those are really important skills that I don't think a lot of other schools and sort of courses of study will emphasize. So that's something to really think about as well. And then just being in a small cohort, having close relationships with your peers and with the professors as well is really great. What else was I going to say here? I have some notes. I'm not sure, is Robert Wooden still with the school, and does he still do a trip where you kind of go? Yeah.
That kind of, unfortunately, the trip part.
With the COVID.
Yeah,
COVID poo-pooed it. Yeah.
And instead, what we were doing now, we still work with the MCS on some things, but we have what we call a professional in residence, who actually happens to be Cabot Yu, who is not a graduate of our program, but he's just so well connected, and so he puts students in contact with lots of people, and he's running programming similar to what Robert did.
So those kinds of services are awesome, because again, coming into the program, and like Allison mentioned, it's very general, and you can explore a lot of different avenues. So having someone who sort of like knows about all of the different career paths that are available, and who can connect you with people that you can talk to and pick their brain. And honestly, like, people love to talk about themselves and their profession. So like, reach out to me. I'll tell you all about information management. If there's anything that you're interested in, law librarianship, health librarianship, like people like, the Robert Woodens, or I missed the name of the professional in residence.
Cabot Yu.
There you go. So they can hook you up and make sure that you are sort of aware of what's going on. And I really encourage anybody to pursue that. And now I'm done talking.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And actually, that's one thing I can emphasize just for everybody, that during our program, you can take up to 4 courses. So 4 of your electives can come from other places. So it does allow you to kind of move to think about what your overall goals are and create your own program. So we'll do Mitchell and then Pallavi.
Yeah, so my experience, like I'd already mentioned, I had a pretty wonderful experience that I always look back to very fondly. And I think a lot of it was part and parcel from how I approached it, because when I came into the degree, I had specific goals set in mind. And some people will come into the program, they'll have a path that they intend to follow, and they'll stick to that. And a lot of the time, people will not have a path, and that path will be shaped by courses you take, professors you meet, and friends you make in the courses, and how you explore your different interests. So with mine in particular, where I came from, history and archives is what I really wanted to follow. With a certain selection of courses that are directly related to archives, I followed along that path. And with a lot of other the core courses that are more general based, that leaves you a lot of room to really change things and mold things to how you want to do it yourself. So where archival courses were on the less populated side, I took that interest and I would expand that into other courses. So for the information services course, when we do an assignment based in the reference interview, I did mine in an archive rather than going to a library, as many people probably did. But it's instances like that where you take the opportunity to mold things to your interests, and I think when you can do that, that's really what you're going to find what you get the most out of what you're doing, because you can explore your own interests. And like Sandra already alluded to in earlier discussions with reading courses, I did a reading course myself. I had a lot of interest in digitization in the archival profession, and I took that opportunity to create a course around that because it wasn't really intertwined with anything else. Reading courses give you that extra opportunity to find something that you're really interested in and really create something that you want to do. You design every aspect of it. You can make it really something your own, and it's something that I think is really worth doing if you have a particular interest in something you're really passionate about.
Thanks. Pallavi?
I had a great relation, and I still have a great relation with all the faculty and the professors. I still take a lot of suggestions. I take appointments and talk to them about my research career and my professional career as well. So when I was in my first year, I did a final project for a course where I explored Twitter data. That gave me a lot of interest on social media data. Then I decided to do a reading course. I went and spoke with one of my professors, and he suggested me to do a reading course, and he supervised it. So when I was doing my reading course, then I realized that I should do a thesis on social media data. Then in my second year, I did my thesis, and I did on my and social media data as well. So when I was doing thesis, then I realized that I have to do a PhD because I loved working on and exploring on data and researching career. So I decided to submit my application for interdisciplinary PhD, and I am in my PhD now. So each and every decision and the projects which we take and which we do in MI program, for every course we have final projects that definitely give us a detailed exploration of each and every concept, which will definitely help to build up our career. So that happened to me, so I'm grateful to that.
Excellent. And Pallavi, you also did win. You entered the open data contest and were one of the winners of that as well.
Yeah.
So
I was the winner. I secured third place in Open Nova Scotia Open Data Contest, and I also won in hackathon conducted by Deep Sense and Sandkeys in Computer Science Department. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just bringing that up because, again, as a student, you'll have opportunities to do, hackathons and contests and different things. And these all sort of enrich the classroom experience as well.
Yeah.
So that's great. So the next question, I'm going to sort of invite you to think about it, and people can just speak. I'm going to let whoever wants to speak to it. Just talking about how either your MI or MLIS degree really helped shape your career, or sort of, where you've ended up, because most of you have had Mitchell, and Pallavi, your recent graduates. But for those of you who have been in the workplace for a while, you've moved through different jobs. So just wondering if you could speak to how your degree kind of helped you move through different job processes.
I'll go first, I guess.
Excellent. Thanks, Carla.
Yeah. So right when I graduated, I was finishing up a research assistant contract that I had gotten through my MREM program. I can't remember the context of it. It's, 2015 is not that long ago, but long enough that I forget. But I was doing a research assistant project, contract, pardon me, and looking for more sort of full-time permanent work. I didn't know exactly what did I want that to look like. I knew what I didn't want it to look like. There's again, public libraries, I'm not sure what it was. It's just not for me. So I wasn't really looking in that realm. And also sort of, I live in Toronto. And so what was out on the market at the time? And records management was in my brain. I think, Sandra, I think you were sort of the inspiration for that. Again, trying to remember, I remember you being in a class and talking about your profession previous to coming to Dal. anyway, so I was aware of like,
Yeah.
oh, there's this whole realm of people who work in these like corporations and do all their information management things, and that could be cool. And so looking more and more into those sort of opportunities, I started working with in records management at Toronto and Region Conservation Authority, which plugged in nicely to my environmental background, and then hopped to a different municipality and started working more and more in sort of the privacy realm, doing freedom of information requests and privacy impact assessments and that sort of thing. And then now I'm with Lexicon Energy doing that as well. I did an internship through, and it started in my the summer between my first and second years of the MLIS program at St. Mary's. I was a reference librarian there, and that really helped me to grow that sort of service mindset. So even though I don't work in a library now, all of it is about service and how you sort of provide a service to your organization and to your colleagues. And then I think, just like to everybody's point, it's a small program and you're really plugged into the alumni and sort of your peer network. And so seeing what other people were up to on LinkedIn put kind of a fire under my butt. And so there's rising stars that were, peers like Allison, amazing job right out of school. And so kind of like got the hustle to see where could I go as well. Yeah, that was my experience.
Thank you. Allison or Michelle, do you want to jump in?
Sure, I'll go since Carlisle pointed me out. So when I was in my MLIS, I did an internship at the WK Kellogg Health Sciences Library at Dal. One of the great things about the program is in Halifax, there's such a vibrant library community. There's so many different libraries, public libraries, academic libraries, special libraries, archives, museums, and it's such a supportive community. So there's a lot of opportunities for students and paid opportunities for students, which is, very important when you are a student. So I took an internship at the Kellogg on campus at Dal, and that internship ran from the end of my first year all the way to the end of my second year. So it's a year long, and in that year, I was a reference and research services intern. So what I did was I basically learned how to be a health sciences librarian there at the Kellogg, and I learned about the different connections academic libraries have with different special libraries, learned how to conduct systematic reviews and other specific projects in that realm of research, how to do a proper reference interview, things that I had learned in class but hadn't, exercised as much in a real world context. And it was a really, really great opportunity. And during that year, it just clicked. This was the subject area I wanted to do. This is the subject area that I just fell in love with. And I did mention a brief interlude into law librarianship. When you're a fresh grad and you need a job, you cast your net far and wide. So I did that for a summer, and then I applied for a position with Horizon Health Network. I was very keenly interested in science, health sciences, that sort of area, which was surprising to me because I had spent most of my undergrad running as far away from that as I possibly could. And I applied for this job. It was originally a year contract, and when it was offered to me permanent, I did not even think about it. I said yes, I was staying because I enjoyed it so much. The topic area and the foundation that I got from my internship at Dal really shaped the fact that I wanted to stay in this area, and also gave me a sort of a leg up when I got into the hospital in terms of the subject area. I did not have to worry about it as much. And when starting a brand new job and starting a brand new career, there's a lot that can be overwhelming. And the things that I took from my MLIS and from my internship sort of alleviated some of the stress of, packing up your bags, moving 400 kilometers to northern New Brunswick, where you've never been in your life, to work in a hospital. So it was a very SIM and the Dal Libraries internship program gave me a great foundation for that.
Great. Michelle?
Okay, so I was just reflecting on my career. So I almost feel like I've stumbled through it, which I don't know is the thing you're supposed to say in forums like this. But really, I think it's sort of, just to echo what Allison has said and Carlisle has said. I really love your name, by the way, Carlisle. Is that it is it is small, right? And like Allison, whom I've never met, but I know via email because we both work in the community. She's she's in New Brunswick. I've never laid eyes on her until this moment, but I feel like I know her. Anyway, I also interned at Kellogg. That if you're going to go into health science, that's like a rite of passage. You get to work with people who are like in their field doing what they're doing, and you're seeing both, the shiny side of the coin and then the gritty, the other stuff, right? The real world stuff. And so that was really valuable. But I also got some of my first mentors that way. I was hired for my first job before I even graduated by through a connection via Betty Sutherland, who was the head of the Kellogg at the time. What a phenomenal woman she is. And to run a special library for a nonprofit, I had four walls and no sweet clue what I was doing. And so but it taught me a lot about just understanding that you have to be uncomfortable. You have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable because people are relying on you to bring your own version of expertise when you are the sole librarian in the room. And I have almost always worked in that milieu, even when I've not been a librarian. So I worked in traditional library services within the district health authorities here in Nova Scotia. And then I actually moved out of librarianship altogether. I became a Canadian patient. I took the Canadian Patient Safety Officer course and worked in quality and risk, and taught me more about this field. But I could always reach back to my colleagues, and I still reach back to my colleagues. So I graduated in 2003, but because I was part-time, I have like a sort of a longer cohort of people, say who graduated in 2001 and 2 and 3. And I swear to God, I hate LinkedIn I hate it, but it's very useful for things. And I reached out to a colleague that I graduated with, or he was in the program and graduated in 2002. And I was like, hey, Dan, I got to ask you a question about this because you're my go-to guy about this thing. And he got back to me, and I have friends and I consider them friends, even though some of them I haven't seen since 2003, 2005, whenever we met at conferences. But they're just people you can reach out to. And, when we were working, we built something here in the beginning of the pandemic, at what became the COVID hub for Nova Scotia Health. And I worked with my colleagues in library services. And then I reached out to and I said, I need in the next 8 hours a solution using this software and this software. What do you got? Because that's the amount of time we had, and they came for me, even though they were working in different libraries, situations, and whatever. And it was really great to know that they're still there, both for, when you need that sort of professional, like the professional side of your stuff, and then the professional hug, because we all have bad days. So anyway, I just want to say that small cohort, I can still picture that room at the old Killam, or whatever, where we existed. But I wouldn't trade it. I know you're in fancier buildings now. We were like the last cohort in the old building, but it was great. So
we still have a common room, so we still tried to preserve some of that kind of feeling in a new fancier building, but absolutely. And I think that's I'm someone who's taken different routes to get places in life, and I think that's one of the great things about the set of skills you learn with this program, is that you can do so much. And we certainly are trying to emphasize sort of that adaptability and flexibility. But I'm also bringing in conversations like, imposter syndrome, because I think many, because there's so many things in this profession, and when you start out in your first job, it can be overwhelming. But you do have the expertise, so you just have to feel confident enough to recognize it's like, yes, I am prepared. So for the last question, and again, I'll just let anyone who wants to jump in. I just thought, I'd take advantage of having you here to say, you know, if you were starting in the program again, what advice would you give yourself, or what advice would you give people thinking about this degree?
Say my pithy joke of the last few years is don't be a hospital librarian during a global pandemic.
I'm not sure we want it to be anything during a pandemic.
Exactly, but that's been my experience. It has been, not to like scare you or anything, because it has been really interesting and really rewarding. It's also been very challenging and very difficult. But my overall advice is, like, if you like puzzles, if you like helping people, just in a myriad of different ways, if you like information and how it works, if you're interested in the way that people use information and any kind of information and how they interact with it on a daily basis, if it drives you nuts when people are just like misquoting things from newspapers or, you know, online stories, or just sharing those memes that are like, if you drink 75 cups of coffee a day, you'll feel great. Those ones, if it just gets on your nerves, there's a path for you with this degree and in the professions you can enter with the MI. It's really, it's different every day. It's really exciting if you like doing lots of different things. As a hospital librarian, I do everything from cutting up the scrap paper for people to scribble notes on to working on research projects with faculty and clinicians in my health network. So it runs the gamut. I teach housekeeping staff how to use the computer, which they don't often do, which is still a need today. And I help clinicians get research so that they can make decisions about care for their patients. They're both very different things, but they're both really rewarding. So if that's like the kind of thing that you want to do, you want to help people, you want to solve problems, solve puzzles, because a lot of the work in managing information and looking for information is kind of like solving a puzzle every day, then yes, definitely this is the place for you.
I like that. Anyone else want to jump in?
Yeah, I'll jump in. So I think talking to people who are working, whether it's before you get into the program or throughout, like being in the program, to get a sense of, especially if it's a field or a path that you're sort of interested in, just to kind of get a sense of what does an actual work day look like. And then I think it's worth mentioning, like, be realistic about what your expectations from your career, whether it's in the long term or the short term, are. Like, what kind of money do you want to make? What kind of work hours do you want to have? Where do you want to live? And are you going to have to move in order to find a job in the field that you're looking at? So really thinking about all those things. And while it can maybe feel a little bit icky to be so calculating about it, it is real life. So it's worth to ask those questions. I think, like, health librarianship is a very lucrative field, and that's something that I didn't pursue. And like when I was graduating, I was like, oh man, really should have taken that class. Like now I'm very happy in my career, but that is something that I would encourage people to look into. And it's okay to change your mind. Like, again, I came in thinking I was going to be a public librarian. I love libraries. I was working in customer service before going into that. And so I thought, working with the public would really be the place for me, but became pretty clear that that was not it. As I've said, it's not a bad place. I think the people who work in public libraries are wonderful. They're doing like amazing work in the communities. I use my public library all the time. So I'm not meaning to poo-poo it. Anyways, that was my reality. And just also to think about the fact that, when you graduate, you might go into a career and it's looking like a certain thing, and then it could morph over time. Like, Michelle, yours has changed a lot, and you're not working in the same kind of field that you were when you first started, or it's, adjusted slightly. In my previous employment, my manager, who had his own MLIS from a different university. So he was the records manager, and then he became the deputy city clerk. So totally different. A lot of the same skills are used, though, because you need to have that sort of information sense. And there's a skill set that you learn going through what I also call library school. I'm not sure if the current cohort would also call it library school, but you learn a way of thinking that becomes so second nature that I think you often forget that you have this way of thinking about things. And sometimes like I'll be perplexed at colleagues like, what? What are you talking about? Why are you not interpreting this situation the same way that I am? And it's because we learned such a specific way of thinking about things. That's a bit rambly, but
No,
yeah.
that's wonderful. Thank
There
you.
we go.
Any other thoughts?
So, so I would say that if anybody has a great interest in understanding and exploring the data, and if they want to have the career towards managing data analysts, MI provides a lot of courses where you can learn different kinds of data and explore data management skills. And if anybody wants to start their research career and don't know where to start and how to start, I think MI can provide a great start and a good direction to start research career.
Excellent. Thanks. Great.
Did you want to go,
Excellent.
Mitchell? Or I was going to say, I just wanted to just jump on something Carlisle said, which is you will think differently and you will not appreciate it until you are in a room with a bunch of people who do not. And I have often been the only librarian in the room. I still call myself a librarian. And even actually, there are sometimes I think working in policy that I use my library hat more than I ever did, even when I was working in library services. But you will think differently, and that is a great value to people who do not know that they need you. So that I emailed Sandra last week to say, I need to talk to you about this because they need us and they just don't know that they do. So don't let you like go in, maybe you know what your path is. Like Mitchell knew what his path was, and that was great. And I am like not that sort of directive person, but once you have these skill sets, you can use them anywhere, right? Like, so don't limit yourself and don't let other people limit you, because there is competition there. I find like folks come in, and they're talking about information management, but they're not in the same way that we do. And I feel kind of passionate about this. So if you're going in, you're not sure like where you're going to be, I'm so glad they kind of changed the name, not because like I'll be a librarian until I die, and I'm cool with that. But other people have will already pigeonhole you. So don't let them. And if you think, I want to explore this over here, I swear this degree will let you in whatever field. Like I'm in health, Allison's in health. It could be anything, right? So
I'm working on advocacy, the idea of making sure we have an advocacy course, because I think that, Dr. Black, Fiona, a former director, always said information managers are going to take over the world. And I truly think that's what we need to do. But sometimes we just need to believe we can do it. Exactly. Mitchell,
Fiona was my mentor. So
absolutely. Absolutely. Mentored to many.
I think what people thinking about coming into the program, I think the best thing is to, like, if you're like me and has a plan in mind, or if you're not, I think the best thing to do is just approach it with an open mind. Think about what you want to do. Think about what other things you either might not be interested in, and think about giving them a chance. Like where I've talked a lot about archives as being my primary interest. Through this program, I developed a lot of interest in academic librarianship. And one course in particular that really helped me find that out was through information literacy, and realizing that I do like teaching and teaching others how to use things, how to find things. And where I'm at now in a university library was definitely not what I would have expected to think where I would be at, 2 years ago when I graduated. When you go into this program, you really don't know where you'll end up and what you'll end up finding interest in. And that's, I think, a really great thing about it.
Thank you all. And I think, once again, in terms of advice for people coming in, I think there's always going to be that mix of planning and being thoughtful and listening to people, but also that serendipity and just taking advantage of the opportunities that present themselves. So I think those are really key. I'm going to throw it open if there's any people on the call that would like to ask questions. You can feel free to put questions in the chat or just to take your microphone. If you want to raise your hand, then I can invite you to speak directly. So whichever you would prefer, you have lots of options, and don't be shy about asking questions. Augustine, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. Actually, I applied, I think, in 2021, but I did not get the opportunity. My application didn't go through. I have a library degree master from UCL, but it's a 1-year program. And due to COVID, we couldn't really get practical experience, so it's really affected me, like someone coming from an education background without any library or information management experience. Up to date, I cannot even find a library job. So I was looking into getting a 2-year program where I can use the foundation, I can build upon the foundation I got from the UCL, and then to move into information management. As you said, we don't have to limit ourselves to just librarianship, to go into other field. But my question is that, what do you look for in our admission applications? Because I mean, I have a master's already. I applied, I didn't go through. So I was wondering what the problem is. So this is the best opportunity for me to really understand what you want from us as an applicant, so that this time I'll put up a strong application and then I'll be able to pursue my dream. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you. And what I'm going to invite you to do is to follow up directly. So I'll put my email in the chat. And if you want to just follow up with me directly, because sometimes the reasons applications don't go through, overall, we're looking for, people to have, an interest and obviously to think this would fit. We look at GPAs, we look at, your letters of reference. So we look at the whole package, and, essentially, we want to accept as many people who are passionate and interested in this field as possible. So I'm happy to have a follow-up conversation with you to look into that and give you better advice for this year. Thanks.
Sure, I'll be ready to follow up. Thank you. And to the
Thank you
panelists,
so much.
thank you for the encouragement, and we are going to make it.
Other questions? I think sometimes people are shy virtually. I think one of the questions, people thinking about this program all often have too, is sort of, how much work is it? Oh, there is another question. Okay, great. Tracy, go ahead.
Hi again. I was actually at an info session from another university, and one of the questions that I asked was a characteristic of a successful student in the program. And what he said was, a lot of the most successful students are students that had prior work experience before entering the program. So I was wondering what you think, a student that is going directly from their undergraduate studies, what could be something that they do to like bridge the gap between them as people without experience in the workplace versus people that has had prior experience?
Oh, that's an interesting question, and I think I would have a sort of a different answer. I think experience is helpful because you can understand how you can use things. I think one of the most important things about, being a student, as the people on the panel have mentioned, is sort of being open to opportunities. I think in many ways, I also had a customer service background. So these things that, had nothing to do with sort of my official career ended up helping me a lot. And I think, just that people who really do fit that, as Allison mentioned, that loving of puzzles, loving of kind of fixing things and working with people, people who have those kind of passion. I think we can help you as a student get the experience in various different ways. So our students are in demand as teaching assistants or as markers or as research assistants. There's a number of internships our students are fortunate to be able to apply for. So I think part of what we want to do is make sure that you get that practical experience. So I think it's more just kind of an open mindset. I'm happy to hear, from the panelists, what do you think made you successful students?
Well, I can speak to that directly because I came right out of undergrad. I was 21 years old when I started at SIM, which none of my classmates ever like to be reminded about. And my first full-time job was post my MLIS, working as a librarian. One of the nice things about SIM and the kinds of students that get into it, you have a lot of people who have more experience in the workforce and in different careers, as well as people who have never worked in a professional environment, who are coming right out of another degree, who are very, very young. And for me, what I found helped me be successful was to just try to absorb as much as I could from my classmates who had that experience. There's a lot of people in the program and in the community who are totally willing to help you and provide advice and provide mentorship. SIM has a great mentor program, which I took part in, and my assigned mentor was Marie DeYoung, who's unfortunately no longer with us, but she at the time was the university librarian at St. Mary's, and she was a fabulous mentor, and she gave me a lot of really great advice. Plus, as I mentioned, there's if you have like no work experience in libraries or information management areas, there are so many internships, the practicum opportunity that is there for you. There are even other jobs on campus that you might not think about. I worked in the research services office for my first year of my MLIS, and that ended up being a really valuable experience in terms of information management in a more corporate environment, dealing with research documents and like the sort of the nitty gritty of like how research is funded and how that paperwork actually gets dealt with and all the necessary information that you need for compliance and accreditation and things like that. So there's a lot of things that you can bring in, even if you feel that your, I don't know, lack of experience is counting against you a little bit. There's a lot there to support you in getting that experience that you need.
Just to sort of add to that as well. So I was part of the MI program and the MREM program. I would say maybe not most of, but a lot of the students in the MI program do have prior work experience. That was my experience from our cohort year, but my cohort in the MREM program, a lot of them had come straight from their undergrads. And honestly, like, I don't know why that person would have said that particularly, but the only thing I can think is maybe it speaks to work ethic and like taking the course of study seriously. But as long as you're ready to put in the work, like a graduate program is a lot more work than an undergrad program, especially if you come from a liberal arts background, which so many of us do. So just be ready to work and soak up as much experience. I think it's probably more a personality thing than necessarily having like I mean, I worked as like a teller at a bank for 3 years, but how much was that really preparing me for the MLIS program? Not really. So I would dispute a little bit. I think it's more about your work ethic and how seriously you're going to take this course of study.
No, that's really helpful. And I think that, when I look at what some of the things our students are doing now, so, the last couple of years, they've been looking at, the documents of the student association themselves and how they can archive them. So they invited the Dow archivist to come over and do working sessions. So, creating opportunities to learn skills in a hands-on way, outside of the classroom. So I think there's just so many ways that, you can gain that experience through. And yeah, and I think that it's, as with many things in life, it's sort of the attitude and the openness you bring to learning that it's going to, dictate how well you do. But great question. Thank you. Other questions? Just wanted to touch back on, because I think that is something sometimes people are afraid to ask about, is sort of the amount of work. And I think, Carla, your comment is fair. I think a graduate program, it's different than a bachelor's. I think you want to be more invested in it. You want to kind of curate your classes more, the way you want, but you have to recognize that it's going to be a substantive amount of work. And I think it's not so much, the risk of failing, is just that risk of, okay, how am I going to manage this workload? So thoughts on that comment, or is that accurate to your experience?
I'm just going to speak up here because I am thinking about spaghetti Saturday nights. So when I did, and my experience was a little different because I worked full time and went to school part time. But so there was a lot of project work one of the years that I was in. And it just happened to be that everybody had to be on different working groups. And we're a small cohort. So it's the same 30 people, and you have a project for Dr. Spiteri and a project for Dr. Black and a project for whatever. So, but not all the same projects, and it's not all the same groups. And so, a lot of I don't know if this was an intended or an unintended learning experience, but people had to learn how to schedule so they could get their work done, and how they were going to meet with each other and put the work in when I might be on a group with these 5 people over here and then these 4 people over here, but they didn't quite overlap. And let me tell you, and so one group had to get together. They cooked spaghetti on Saturday nights because that was the only time they could get together to do the work. And I'm going to tell you something, as someone who's like, Outlook calendar is a horror show on a good day. If that alone does not like get you ready for the real world, whatever that means these days, I don't know what does, right? Like there is like the subject work, and then there is so I did a thesis, for example, and one of the things I learned was perseverance. Like one of my thesis advisors was at the IWK, and my God, the proposal for my thesis was 60 pages, right? Never, because I had to get it through ethics over there. And so there's not just there's the class work, however that's delivered these days. And then there's like the other pieces. So like back to Tracy, your question about like I had a job. It had nothing and everything to do with what I do now, like the bank teller stuff, but it's the other things you learn as you're going through the course, like how to work with people. Sometimes it's how to work with people you don't particularly like very much, like welcome to the real world. So all of those things are very valuable. And we still talk about spaghetti Saturday nights, and it's been like 20 years. So there you go.
It's hilarious because at curriculum committee yesterday we were talking about all the different things, and I'd love for students to be able to take a project management course, but then someone rightly pointed out that really we should start at the very beginning of the degree and basically state you're going to have so many different projects, and this is how you're going to get through, is learning from the beginning, is how to manage and structure these different experiences. And I think that these are all skills you need as a professional. So yeah. Well, I know time is moving on, so I'd like to thank and give a round of applause to our panelists. This was it's always so wonderful to hear people's real, authentic experiences with the program. So I thank you very much. And I'm just going to share my screen for one more moment, back to the slides. And just move through to so we are now, just to give you a sense, if people are interested in being considered for a scholarship, the deadline for that is March 1st. So that is the deadline that's in front of us right now. And I just do have a summary list here of the application process. So there's the application fee. You have to arrange for transcripts to be sent, and we calculate GPAs. You need, if you're just coming out of school, academic references. If you've been out for longer, we can certainly take professional references. We really do look at the application essay. So that is your opportunity to kind of connect yourself to this profession and what you'd like to accomplish, and talk about where and how you have, worked with other people and your technology skills. And again, it's not about, we don't want people to come in being technology experts. It's more just about recognizing that we want students that are not going to be afraid to try different things. So it's really kind of that attitude. Your resume, and if you are not, if English is not your first language, evidence of English language competencies. And just in, there's our deadlines. Just also wanted to encourage people, if you have any questions, the best email is thesim@dal.ca email. But I did put my email in earlier, and I'm happy if people have more, questions about the actual curriculum. Either myself or Janet are happy to chat with you about that. So just wanted to give everyone a last, oh, right. And we also know that we cannot answer all questions in this interview, this session. So please, if you'd like to drop into a class, if you're physically here, or we do have some online classes, so we could try and connect you into a classroom. If you'd like to talk to a current student, let us know. There's lots of ways we can connect with you people as well. Sorry, Augustine, I don't understand that, your comment.
I'm sorry, deadline. I was talking about the deadline.
Yeah. So the deadline for international applications was January 31st, but the deadline for scholarship consideration is March 1st. And then, for Canadian applicants, we can accept them up to August. Any other questions? Janet or Kim, any final thoughts or words from either of you?
Just a quick comment about the international deadline, just because of processing times. We can give people until like sort of end of day February 3rd, which is Friday. But we can't extend it any further than that. If you have special circumstances, by all means, get in touch with us, and we might be able to do something, but that would be rare that we would be able to accommodate that. But yeah, February 3rd, anything that we get kind of up until February 3rd is acceptable. But beyond that, you can always apply for the following year.
But Augustine, please do reach out, because if you applied last year, we'd probably have a lot of the information. So if you want to just follow up with me directly, I can try and understand the situation and provide feedback. Janet, any thoughts you'd like to send people off with?
No, I was interested in that conversation about what skills would make you successful. And because our program is very generalized, I I almost feel like if you're too entrenched in the way of your employer at the time, then you're not going to get the most out of the program to begin with. And then I think the best characteristic a successful student can have is to be open-minded and ready for opportunities to come their way, right? Regardless of what they are. And I think I can't, Sandra, if you don't mind not sharing your
Yeah.
slides, it's really hard for me to see because I'm on a laptop, so everybody is like this. But I think Carlisle, you were the one who said you had your mind changed when, you know, you were on a path and then you came in and you allowed yourself to experience some of the other paths that are available, and that's what happens when you're open-minded. The universe will let you know there might be another path out there for you.
And it, you know, hilariously, one of the things we do is we consider it a success if someone goes on a practicum and comes back and says, I never want to do that, because that's helpful information to have. Like that's, you know, ruling things out in life is just as important as ruling things in. But one of the other things I think I would mention is you will have you know, before you come in, you're often paired with a student. You're going to be given a faculty advisor. There's, you know, so many of us who will be there to provide sort of the assistance and advice that you might need and to connect you to different people. So I agree that the number one thing we look for is people who are, you know, interested and passionate about this field and who are open-minded. Thank you so much to our panelists. It was just lovely to reconnect and to hear your stories.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks. Okay, we will officially end this session. Everybody will be sent a copy of the recording. Also, please